Bases dropped on a Freestyle Friday. Get you ready for the weekend. John, hear you there. And cast the thousands, as always, on a Friday to get you ready. It is going to be Morning David. David's first in line this morning. What's on your mind when it comes to Atlanta and Philly? We'll talk about Atlanta and Philly heading toward hour number 2 and an hour number 2. Weekend Whiparound is there. Looks like Andre Blake is back from the concussion protocol that he's in. Looks like he's going to start this weekend for Philadelphia. And we got that from our friend Jonathan Tannenwald at the Philadelphia Inquirer. So looking pretty first choice when it comes to what you're going to get with the Union and Atlanta United this weekend on Sunday afternoon. Also on the show, Greg Garza coming in. He's going to come in a little early because he's globetrotting. And we will have our Friday free kick with Greg and our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. We'll see if he has to go through some kind of airport security. We'll find out what his situation is. May not keep him for the full half hour that we traditionally do, because if the man's on the road, he's got stuff going on. So very, very busy man. He's going to bring us a little bit of time coming up in just a little bit. Then Bart Keeler. And the real world's getting in the way. Real world's getting in the way with Bart. So we have Bart raised his hand and he's like, hey, I'm cool at 10. I'm cool today if you need anything. And since we haven't caught up with Bart, traditionally we like to have Bart to come in on Mondays and talk about the USWNT. We can talk about that, She Believes, and anything else on his mind. But it'll probably be a lot of USWNT talk and build it toward the weekend. And then after that, once again, Weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. Morning, Alex. And we get to look at all the action going on this weekend. We'll blow through as many of the divisions as we can with Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, USL Championship, League One, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into all of that this morning. So the way that I wanted to handle opening kickoff this morning, and once again, it's brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Right there is your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you are accessing us, whether it is on the YouTubes, it is on Twitch, or on the 280 character app. And all of that's going on right there. You get your day kicked off with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So here's what I wanted to do for opening kickoff. I wanted to talk about the high school schedule. David actually brings it up. Got to see the 6:00 match last night with two of the kids, but had to head to soccer practice and drop off, so he couldn't stay for game 2. And so it's a question for Maddie. If Maddie's one of the busiest folks right now. She's running around, and it's Kennesaw, it's work, it's us, it's all over the place. So, David, I'm going to ask this question, and then if Maddie can parachute in here on a Friday, then we will ask. Game 2, it was crazy. And this is what have you ever had to deal with weather when you're doing a physical activity? And I mean, you still have to be stuck outside. You literally still have to be stuck outside. Last night, I tipped my hat to Decatur, St. Pius, the boys and the girls teams, all the adults that were there in Decatur, in beautiful downtown Decatur, for the matchup last night that we had on the network, because frankly, it was some of the weirdest conditions that we've ever called matches in. And you can go today. We will be in a unique location. It might be like the old days of the old WGN Chicago Cubs broadcasts with Harry Carey and Steve Stone, where they were out in center field. And we'll get into that coming up in just a bit. But you can catch all of the action, all of our live stuff on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Set your notifications. You follow us. Then when we have an event pop up and you know that it's going to be one match or two in short order, you go to our Mixler channel, you hit follow, notifications pop up, you know when we're going on. But it is Johnson, Gainesville tonight at City Park in Gainesville, 6 and 8, girls and boys. So last night, the front was coming through, and those of us who were still trying to fight the weather from 2 days ago on Wednesday got to fight the wind and the front coming through on Thursday. So I don't know how many of you lost power. I don't know how many of you had issues with your electricity. It flickered on and off here at Office HD, and it stayed with us. But there are some folks south of the railroad tracks in the city where we live where the complete grid was blown. And I mean, it was dark. I mean, no street lights, no nothing. A lot of places just completely and totally dark. And I'm talking probably a good mile by mile stretch. So last night, the front's coming through, and we're calling the matches from Decatur High School. We were in the press box, but obviously the way that, press boxes are, you want to open a window so you're not talking like this and everything just bounces around one another and you're hearing all of that more than anything else. So we had the window open. Started out fine. It was just wind. And, wind, you're kind of battening down the hatches. You're trying to find stuff that's weighted down so you can weigh down your equipment and weigh down your paper and make sure that everything is in place. As the night went along, it went from just wind and the occasional shower and the occasional spit and a rainbow and the sunshine to just wind and rain. And I mean, the wind was coming. If you think of yourself standing and looking forward, the wind was coming off of our left shoulder and coming in a swirl in and around the stadium. So basically, if you look at the field, you're going left to right. If you were going from left half, right half, if you were going from the right half of your screen to the left half of your screen, you're going into the wind. And you probably could get 20 yards of lift on a soccer ball before it just absolutely crashed to the earth. And so for 40 minutes, one team is facing it. The second 40 minutes, the other team is facing it. And it's just absolutely stupid crazy. It's one of the wildest wind experiences that I've ever had when we were calling matches, whether it was for the girls' match or Jason and Maddie for the boys' match. And if you had the wind at your back, it ended up helping you. And that's what helped Decatur beat St. Pius last night on the boys' side. It was 2-0. And it was just one of those nights where you give credit for folks because they got through it. I mean, literally, if you're hitting into the wind, you're trying to either hit it as hard as humanly possible to cut through the wind, or you're working on the ground, or you just sit there and you take your lumps and it's just like, I'm going to bang it, and however far it goes, and then we'll sit there and we'll figure it out and work around it later. But it was absolutely crazy last night getting through that non-region matchup between Decatur and St. Pius. And St. Pius used it as a way to challenge themselves and get ready for the playoffs, playing teams with similar styles and those kinds of things. And Decatur, pretty much the same way. Decatur knows it. So it's Decatur at Greenbrier out toward Augusta in round number 1. And it looks like St. Pius is going to Thomas County Central in round 1. And we'll have all the brackets, all the fun, and we'll talk about that at City Park. It will be interesting about trying to get a broadcast out on both sides. It might be very, very remote and very, very low-fi, but Jason, Maddie, and I will be up there 6 and 8 tonight, Johnson, Gainesville, City Park. And the reason I say that is because City Park, great venue, gorgeous venue, natural grass, longtime stadium in Gainesville. They've taken their press box and they've torn it down. And it's a 3-story facility, and it's been there forever. And what they've done is they've torn it down, and they're rebuilding it with suites, state-of-the-art broadcast facilities, state-of-the-art PA, all of that stuff. So it's still being built. It's going to be ready at some point during the American football season in the fall, but it's going to be 21st century. You've got suites and the whole deal. So that is not available. So we've got to check and see. We got to take extension cords. We got to see what we can do. And we might be doing it from the stands. It might be fun to call those matches. Johnson, Gainesville tonight. It'll be interesting. And you can always catch it right there on our Mixler channel at Soccer Down Here at Mixler.com. And you can check out all of our high school activity there. All right. So we kind of had to slide things up because we got a Globetrotter coming on the show. And if we have to trim the half hour so we can make a flight or whatever, we'll get into all this detail coming up in just a little bit. But we have to roll a very. I'm trying to get to you in a hurry and I'm mashing buttons, Greg, and it's the wrong button that I end up mashing. And it's out of control already on a Friday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Where are you specifically? I know you're traveling, but where are you?
I wish I could say I was in like Seoul or Bulgaria. No, I'm in Chicago.
Okay. How much time do we have you? Do we have you for like 20 minutes? Will that work?
That's perfectly fine. 20, 25, 30 minutes. Perfect.
Okay. Because I didn't know if you were getting removed from the location that you are currently in early, and if the folks are going to be banging on the door and it's going to be like, housekeeping.
I apologize if Wi-Fi is not that great. I have do not disturb on the door, so it should be all right.
It's all good. What I wanted to do first and foremost was the last time for those that might follow you on the IG, the Gram, or the Insta. There's the man's coffee. It wouldn't be a morning without his coffee. You were spending some time with the Unified team with Atlanta United, and I thought it was really cool that Atlanta United invests as much as they do consistently with the Unified team. Marty Jellamy, the head coach, and the time that we get to spend with them. What was it like for you to spend time with the Unified team and be a part of that aspect of the greater picture of Atlanta United?
Yeah, I think you really sometimes when you're in organizations, you don't. It's interesting you say that. I had a speaking engagement with a very large corporation and spoke to VP engineers a couple of days ago from all around the Atlanta-based area, and they had asked me what makes up a successful organization within soccer. Right, they're thinking about themselves and trying to help me put it into perspective of even coming from a professional athlete. And I said, I think what makes up a successful organization is not just the top dogs, right? It's if you look at an organization of Atlanta United, the only thing you think about are the players, because that's all you see every weekend. And sometimes you really don't pay attention to all the other assets that organization has, or all the other little pockets that organization has. And I think Atlanta United does a very good job of really highlighting those different sides of every organization, whether it be the front office, whether it be the equipment managers, whether it be the people in the background from sales to sponsorships. And then you have the Unified team, which is aligned perfectly with the first team. They get just as much as attention. They are a part of what it is to be United. So I remember the very first day, player relations, and she's made her way up, but Marissa Aarons, and now it's Lena Saul who's responsible for the Unified, but it used to be Marissa Aarons. And I remember the very first day she came up to us, all of us, and she gave us a list of all community engagement that we wanted to be a part of. And it was just a list of everything. It was the Humane Society. It was Unified. It was Kick Childhood Cancer's Ass, right? It was all these different engagement, community engagement, and just community relations that we could be a part of. And I checked off every single one. The only one I did not check off was the child's cancer, because I had served as an ambassador within Tijuana for about 3 years of that program. And it took a pretty big toll on me, emotionally. So that was a really hard one for me, but every other community engagement or community relation that was on that list, I checked. I said, this is anything you need me to be a part of, I'll be a part of it. And, I think it was awesome because with that Unified team, I was the very first ambassador, along with Mark Bloom. It wasn't even Brad Guzan. Brad has now been, when he got there after the second year. And I fell in love with it. I still see older unified players, once every 3 months we go to breakfast together and we have, we still do things. I'm still close to their families. And so I think, Atlanta United creates such a great way to really involve the whole, every piece of the community. And you and I have mentioned this before, and I've mentioned it, and I mentioned it to, even when I spoke to Arthur Blank's sponsorship teams and, the front office within MBS and everything that they are A and B and everything they stand for. And they asked me what makes up a championship team. And I said, I think a championship team is when you have so many guys that are bought in, not only within the organization, but they're bought in within the community. And I think every player that we had on that championship team within those first couple of years, we encompassed that. We encompass the involvement with the community. And I think that's why we were so successful. And I think that's why that bond and relationship with the community has never been the same. And that's a very honest assessment, now being from the outside. And we've gotten some great players in, we've gotten some great individuals and amazing talent, but this is just my honest assessment. We still don't have that true bond and relationship that I think every single player, all of us had whenever we were there.
When it comes to, I don't want to use the word integration because I don't think that's the right word, but interaction. When you have some of your fellow first teamers in this kind of an environment and, they check off all the boxes and they go to these events and they become attached to causes and what it means to a franchise, and then it hits them personally. What's it like for you as someone who is as profoundly invested across the board as you are in these causes to want to help out and be a part of a team and a community? What's it like for you to see each of these different teams and see all of these different engagements and see your teammates embrace them where they might not have necessarily, going in, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll check a box, and then they get in and then they're vested and you get to see that kind of a light come on. What's it like to see your teammates embrace it as much as you have?
Yeah, I think as a professional athlete, and I did the scan of energy at the stadium the other day as well with all Title I elementary kids from schools. I always tell rookies or even guys that are coming into, right, Noah Cobb is a great example. We tell these young guys that are coming in, you now have the platform. You now have the platform to present the type of person that you are and that you want to be. And I think as a professional athlete, you are given that platform to, it's even people who are men of faith, right? You now have that platform to spread the good word or do all these other things that you truly believe in. And I think those values come from when you're a kid, right? And that's why Parky and I started Beyond Goals Mentoring, is because we wanted to instill these values within these early age and grassroots kids to where when they do get the opportunity, they are still elite people and have elite personalities to make those types of decisions, to be involved in community engagements and just being involved with what's around them. If you break it down and you put it into, if you simplify it, professional athlete's life is very complicated in so many different ways, but the simplicity of it is also there, right? You work from 7 to 1 p.m. every day, and you have the rest of the day to do absolutely nothing, right? And, it's whether those guys go and play video games or whether they go home and, go make the wrong decisions or they have distractions. But I think, it's one thing if you have a family, but I mean, I still think that you still have that platform to, whenever you finish your day, you have the opportunity to go be involved with these other pillars of opportunity that the organization provides. And that's one thing that Parky and I did all the time. We were a part of the Humane Society, right? We went to different Humane Societies, and my parents have my 4 dogs because it's just impossible with my life to take care of them. But I saved we saved 4 dogs whenever I played Mexico, right? I was part of the Humane Society within Chula Vista. And so, it was just like, it was an automatic for me with that box to check, because that's something that I hold very close to my heart. And, I think living in Mexico and having more dogs on the street than you did people, really, really allowed me to kind of instill those values within. So I think all these kids that are growing up and have the opportunity to become a professional athlete gives you the platform to do good. Because I said in an interview when I was at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium the other day, I said, willingly or unwillingly, as a professional athlete, you have a social responsibility, and you are a role model, because there are so many kids. And Parky always says it all the time, is that there are so many players, whether you're in the MLS or NBA or NFL or whatever it is, and they say, nah, I'm no role model. I don't need to be a role model. Screw what these people think, right? But they're kids that look up to what you think and how and how you are as a person. I mean, you can use a lot of examples in that. I can throw a lot of different names out there, and one specifically in the NBA who I think is probably a heck of a player, but over the past couple of years has made some really poor decisions, to where, if you think of him as a role model, if you think of him as a kid who's looking up to him, man, I don't know, as a parent, I would want my son to follow that trajectory, right? So it's just there's that's once again, it just always goes back to just serving as that role model and using the organization as a platform to do so as well.
Go ahead and take a sip of your coffee. Let me ask you about role models and the two-way street when it comes to mentoring. Do your mentees understand the idea of responsibility and the idea of how they present themselves publicly rubs off on others? Or is it something that you and Parky have to remind them of? How many of them from the beginning understand that they have a place and that they have that responsibility going forward, where they can rub off on others, and then it rubs off on 2 and on 4 and on 8 and such? Or do you have to remind them of that personal responsibility and how they conduct themselves as mentees when they go out into the community?
Parky uses a great phrase, and he always says, kindness is contagious, right? When we speak with teams, Parky always really, really highlights that phrase. Because I think great teams that we've probably played on, you do have that kindness, right? That act of, to me, kindness is an act of love, right? So it's, I heard this story once a long time ago, and it said the only 2 things that we as people need to thrive or to always push forward, are 2 things, right? And nothing to do with material, nothing to do with there are no materialistic pieces behind it, but it's just happiness and love, right? And so Mike and I always try and instill that within these kids that have the opportunity to hopefully spread those 2 acts, to others. So it's really fun to do, because I feel like most kids, it makes you, and you can even lead it towards confidence, right? It makes you feel good when you help someone. Yep. It makes you feel good inside when you make someone feel happy. And so, yeah, I think giving them that motivation to do so, I think also brings a sense of confidence within them as well, because when you do feel great, after helping someone, it in turn also makes you feel good. And, true believer of good things do happen to good people.
How difficult is it for a mentee these days to understand the value of being happy, spreading love, all of these positives, considering the pressures? I mean, you as a dad see this. There are pressures on young people these days. I mean, whether they're academics and they're trying to chase after that, 4.0 grade point average, or they're a great athlete and they're trying to get to the next level of accomplishment, whatever that is. How difficult is it to have young people today understand about happiness, love, all of it rubs off, and you can pay it forward and all these kinds of things, considering all of the pressures that surround them externally these days.
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one. Having kids, you always think about the what ifs or the negatives that are around us, right? Although there's a lot of great in our world, sometimes there can be a lot of evil as well, right? That's a really hard question to answer. I think as long as you just continue to try and focus on those positives and focus on what good there can be, then you hopefully you're doing the next generation a favor to follow in the same footsteps.
Yeah.
The more you see something and the more you manifest something, I feel like the more it can come into play and come into action. So even when we speak to, for me, when I speak to middle schools that are kids that are at risk, right? At risk kids that are in ISS and OSS constantly.
Mm-hmm.
They're always getting in trouble. Well, when you go in, the first time you speak to them, they're like, who the heck is this guy, right? Is this guy going to tell me that, I'm going to finish this meeting today. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get in trouble again. I don't care. Right. But the more you meet with them and the more I think you give them personal experiences and kind of lead them into thinking that they can get out of that cycle. Not every kid you're going to be able to help, but there are going to be a few kids there that you're going to say, okay, this kid is starting to, at least change his decision making. Right. And that's the whole goal.
Yeah. And because, when you are, you mentioned ISS and OSS and not really wanting to pay attention to adults because of all of the negative influences and the negative feedback, negative comments, negative influence, all these kinds of things that weigh on young people these days and adults. I'm not going to lie. I mean, obviously we have, negative influences on us as adults as well, but specifically with the younger people that are there today, I think that you have to kind of break down that wall, and it might be a little harder for adults to do it these days just because of everything else that's going around. I think that when we were younger and we were of that age, the interactions were probably a little bit more face to face and probably meant a little more and had that much more impact because we didn't have all of the things going on around us and sensory overload, all these other influences, and that we had direct contact. So I think that it's probably tougher, but when you can break through and show them that if you do that one act, if you're being kind, then it rubs off, and then you continue to be kind, and then the message continues to impact that individual. It's just that first time with a young person and then reminding them over and over again with that positive reinforcement. I think that that's key in helping younger people these days, is that positive reinforcement aside from all of the negative stuff that is going to be bombarding them from all over the place.
Yeah, you said it. It's just continuous reinforcement is what it is. The more you see something, the more you believe in it.
How hard is it as a mentor to continue to get that message and hammer away with that message? Because I can imagine that there are times when, you as a father, or, you listening to Parky as a dad, knowing other fathers, you sit there and you see someone who, they're not having a good day for whatever reason. And you walk up to them, you put your arm around them, and you sit there and you explain, okay, everything's going to be fine. It may not look that way right now, but it will be. How difficult is that for a mentor to continue to want to hammer away at that message? I mean, obviously it's a labor of love, but it is still a labor because of everything that you've got to try to fight through to show this individual, hey, there's sunshine on the other side. How difficult is that as a mentor?
Yeah, I think of any teacher. I mean, you look at my girlfriend, who's a seventh, eighth grade teacher, or anyone who is a mentor, a teacher, or a guide in any way, or a counselor. I think we had a meeting with and this is some awesome news that hopefully we'll have in the future, but we had a meeting with APS the other day, with Beyond Goals Mentoring, and hopefully get something really instilled into APS with what we do. But I said something I think really hit home for all their superintendents. And I said, whenever you have a kid who trusts you, that kid will run through a brick wall for you. Mm-hmm. Whenever there is a kid that trusts you, that kid will run through a brick wall for you. And it's so true. Whenever there is a kid that trusts you and you build that trust with them, the easier it is for them to listen, and the easier it is for them to really take everything into account of what you were saying, and hopefully try to implement it in their everyday lives. And having kids being bought into something is one thing, right? As Parky and I have experienced it with Boys and Girls Clubs, or sometimes Soccer in the Streets, or where we partner with all these organizations, and I have to look at it as if I'm going in and I'm speaking to 50 kids, and only 6 of those kids really listened to everything I said and really took it all in, then it's a success. Because, I think in my mind, in my eyes, it's okay. It's a success because those 6 kids are going to start to implement certain things, and the other kids, it's going to be contagious. Those kids are going to start implement things in their lives and their school, and their behaviors and their actions are going to start being better, and they're going to start moving upward. Their trajectory is going to be upward. It's not going to be stagnant. It's not going to go down. And the other kids that they are surrounded by, that's something that usually motivates you, right? When you see other kids that are maybe in the same cycle that you're in, but they were able to get out of it and they're able to have a positive trajectory. So, even sometimes, I think Mike and I, sometimes we go speak to a lot of schools, and we're like, man, like there are only like 5 kids that, really took it all in, had questions. The other 45 are just like, these people can leave now. But that's still in my mind, that's still a success, because those 5 kids, they're going to now be the helpers to change the cycle of some other kids. And just, it's the domino effect from there.
How many of your mentees, prospective mentees, individuals that sit in on the discussions know who you and Michael are going into these sessions? How many of them do they learn about you in the session, and how many of them sit there and go, I have no idea why this person is here?
There's a lot of all 3 of those. It's like divided into 3s, I guess you could say. Yeah. I think the coolest thing for me is like whenever I go and speak to middle schools and I go speak to at-risk kids. There's a middle school in close in the middle of Roswell and Alpharetta, Title I school. And I remember the first time I went there, it was all kids who were boys, and all kids ISS, OSS, 8th grade. And man, that was a hard first time to go there, because they had no idea who I was. They had no idea what I did. They did not care what I did. But I've now been there. I went when I was still playing with Atlanta United. I probably went 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the very first time. And I remember then coming back. Where I moved to Cincinnati, and I came back, and I went again just to now hit on the newer 8th grade kids that are in that same cycle. And I just remember getting there, and I remember the head counselor of that school had told me, man, there are so many kids that we had within that initial group that you used to speak to when you were here with AU that flipped it around before high school, that completely change of mindset. They're doing great. They have jobs now. They have this, et cetera, et cetera. Like those are awesome stories that you want to hear, is because those kids had no idea. They could care less about soccer. They could care less about anything. But I think once you go back to, once again, if you're able to kind of gain that trust, then they listen to you that, and sometimes I tell this to parents all the time. That's my selling factor to parents, is that our kids don't want to listen to mom and dad. They don't want to listen to mom and dad. And sometimes they don't want to listen to their teachers that they see every single day.
Right.
And so sometimes whenever you have another voice or another soundboard that comes in, it's an additional asset of support that can help in a massive way as well.
Wrapping up our time with Greg Garza here on the Friday Free Kick.
Yeah, let's speak some soccer, man.
All right. So Atlanta and Philly this weekend.
It's our Achilles heel, man.
But when you're going up against a 4-4-2 diamond, which is like going up against like the veer or the option in college football, it's an odd duck, but it does create opportunities. And something else that, a lesson for your mentees. Philadelphia is more than happy to muck it up. They want to sit there and they want to push, they want to prod, they want to foul, they want to goad you into situations, make you knock you off of your game.
They're so good at it.
And they annoy the ever-loving ish out of you, and they force you to have to kind of rethink and regroup and adjust to them. And they might be at full song because it looks like Andre Blake is cleared concussion protocol. Last two times, though, it's been a goalless draw, and then Atlanta last year won it 2-0 because Thiago had himself a day. What do you think?
That's always such a tough team to play against. Everybody has the same opinion and idea of who Philly is. I mean, Ale Bedoya is like he encompasses that. He's always been that player, and that's what has made him successful. And although I don't know if he still starts. He's in the middle of, but I mean, still, it's those guys. They have so much faith in what he has instilled with every single player there. He's such a great leader. Leads by example, leads by action. So, it's a tough team to play against. I think it can. My only idea is that when you play a 4-4-2 diamond, you play a 5 in the back, and just play a 5-3-2, or a 5-4-1, right?
Yeah.
I just remember whenever we played LA Galaxy and they played a 4-4-2 diamond when it was Ibra and Alessandrini and all those guys. That was one of my favorite games, and I think I told you before, that was my favorite game I've ever played in Atlanta United jersey. Was against LA Galaxy in LA, and we were licking our lips before that game because we knew they were playing a 4-4-2. And I just thought to myself, man, I'm going to have so much space. I'm going to have so much space playing this wing back. Alessandrini is not going to defend me. He doesn't want to defend, and I'm just going to be able to bomb forward. And I just remember Julian and Gressel got that ball so many times. We got the ball I had so many touches that game, and it was like the funnest game I've ever played. Besides maybe the Chicago game where they got a red card at Bobby Dodd. I don't know if you remember that game too. I think I had like 400 touches in one game. I think we had I just remember being so involved and having so much fun. And I was just those are probably some of my two favorite games ever playing with Atlanta United. But I just remember when you play a 4-4-2 diamond, it all depends, right? Hopefully Gonza has done his homework. That's short for Gonzalo.
There you
go. But hopefully he's done his homework, and but you never know what you can get with Philly.
Yep, and so it sounds like the way that you're describing things, it might be a day for Caleb Wiley and Brooks Lennon down the wings, because if you're talking about personal experience, that sounds like Brooks with his crosses, Caleb with his runs, and it'll be fun on the outside. I don't want to get you kicked out of the hotel.
You're fine.
So I heard cars in the background, so I don't know if they're honking at you or whatever, but we're good to go. Thanks as always for coming on, being on the road up there at the North Pole, and once again, thank you, my friend. It's great.
What time's the game tomorrow?
It's Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. Oh, you're right. It's one of the only Sunday games.
Sunday, I think it's 2:45, 2:40.
Okay.
So we're in good shape. So yeah, you get Saturday to watch everybody else, Sunday with Atlanta and Philly. And no, it'll be fun. But as always, my friend, it's great to catch up with you. Great to see you. Great to see you continued globetrotting. Miles and points, my friend. We'll catch up with you next time.
See you guys. Thanks, man.
There we go. That's Greg. And that's the Friday Free Kick. And if I'd mashed the right buttons instead of hitting the wrong intro, because like I said, I was trying to do everything really, really fast. And so of hitting, it's like in the queue with the way that it works, there's a certain queue of buttons and things, and you can hit hotkeys and opens and things like that. And so it was the one that was before the Friday free kick was the Mike Conti intro. And so as I'm scanning down with the mouse, it ends up brushing that one, and that's what cued the Mike Conti before I got into the Friday free kick with our buddy Greg there. So it's always great to catch up with Greg. And I know sometimes that when we do the Friday free kick, we do go a little deep with topics and things like that. But I think that it's important to have these discussions, because you never know that when you listen to it, how you might rub off on someone, and what we've learned in these conversations, and the importance of what's going on in our heads. Today it was, acts of kindness and paying it forward and being there to help. Those kinds of messages can help us outside of the sport of soccer. And so to be able to get that from Greg, it's always great to catch up with Greg and find out what's going on at Beyond Goals Mentoring. He mentioned the stuff with APS, Atlanta Public Schools. That would be cool. But didn't want to quite hit the breaking news banner, the breaking news sounder with that one. But we'll keep an eye on Beyond Goals and Atlanta Public Schools. Great stuff from our friend Greg Garza and from our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Okay, Bart's going to join us in about 15 minutes. And Bart's going to talk USWNT, She Believes, and how much of a badass Alyssa Nair continues to be, and if there's anything else going on in Bart's mind, if there's any qualifiers or anything like that we missed, and if there's any other kinds of news when it comes to national team. Obviously, we have the injuries and all that we can get into as well. Naomi Girma, and she's kind of dinged up and all those kinds of things. But we can get into that. We'll get into all of the stuff that's going on in and around. But like I said, when we get into hour number 2 after Bart, we'll get into the weekend Whiparound, and we'll roll through all of the matches. Yesterday, Liverpool got pounded, and it was pretty bad. Atlanta took they absolutely just took Liverpool to the woodshed, and so you ended up with a moment that they didn't like. So Tata Martino getting into all of that. Tata was never a fan of the rules and wants them changed. And so when it comes to all of that, that's what I was getting into here in just a little bit. But it was not a good day if you were a fan of Liverpool. And so it was a long day in Europa League, but at the same time, legitimately, if you think about it, you're going into Champions League. And I know that, oh boy, you want a Europa League title when you're eligible for Champions League the next season. So, yeah, so you see, but all that kind of stuff's going on. All right, so we do have some stuff in other leagues and other news, and I'm sorry that I feel like I'm piling on to our friends at Everton, but it looks, and there's also something I want to get into with what happened in the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote on a regular basis. It happened after a match. And you're going, really? That actually happened? And there's video that this particular thing actually did happen. While we were sleeping, news on Everton. And it's, investigation continues. Simon Goodley at The Guardian. Everton paid £30 million in interest to a lender with links to a tax exile. And this is something that is an exclusive to The Guardian this morning. Charges appear to have reached about £438,000 a week. You can only have that gig. According to the most recent set of accounts, more than 3 times the reported wages of Jordan Pickford. Most of that cash outflow has now been excluded from Everton's most recent P&L account, profit and loss, after a controversial change in accounting policy by the club that has allowed it to report lower losses, which may give rise to that other points deduction that we're talking about once this season is over, that has the other teams that could be relegated with their spidey senses up over this. The change in how the club accounts for debt interest comes with scrutiny of the finances. Once again, remember, they were deducted points back on Monday. Club's auditors have also said that there is, quote, material uncertainty over future financing that may cast significant doubt about the group's ability to continue as a going concern. And once again, we talked about 777 asking for an extension. They were supposed to prove by Monday that they had the financing available and could take care of the 94% share of Everton that they want to purchase from Farhad Moshiri. Everton is now believed to owe more than £500 million to third-party lenders. £500 million to third-party lenders. Most of the interest charges reported in the annual report appear to relate to about £250 million of debt built up with the club's largest lender, Rights and Media Funding. Trust me, that's the name of the group. £23 million in interest paid by the club in the last financial year, more than $7 million in the last 2 years. Get this, and this would also be a great gig if you can find it. Rights and Media Funding has 0 employees, borrows their funds from offshore companies in order to lend to football clubs. In total, about 70% of Rights and Media Funding's loans have been provided to Everton, according to the most recent available filings to the government. Documents relating to companies in separate offshore jurisdictions suggest the trail of Everton's debt to Rights and Media Funding leads to a Monaco and Barbados-based racehorse owner and leisure entrepreneur by the name of Michael Tabor. Started his career as a bookie, building a chain of betting shops, sold to Coral in 1995, made another fortune from an investment in fitness clubs. Last year's Sunday Times Rich List put his wealth at more than £600 million. Series of interests, including the LBC owner Global, Bet Victor, and Thoroughbred Racehorses. Obviously, his estimated wealth is a lot smaller than Farhad Moshiri's, but Tabor's money has played a role in keeping the club afloat. UK company filings set out how Rights and Media Funding has most recently been financed by a company in Cyprus and a company in the Bahamas. The Cyprus company apparently is owned by another company in the British Virgin Islands, which separate offshore accounts identify Tabor as the owner. Not clear from the records who owns the Bahamian company, although this gentleman, Tabor, has been associated with his loans to Everton via a company with a similar name. So it's like, okay, does it sound like it? It looks that way. Previously linked to loans made to the club. So recent accounts and all this kind of stuff. Club justified the move in the accounts by claiming the interest related to the construction of the new stadium at Bramley-Moore Dock should be classed as an investment and excluded from the profit and loss accounts. However, Everton has said repeatedly that the loans from Rights and Media Funding have nothing to do with the stadium, but they still want it associated with the construction of the new stadium. So there you go. Everton obviously did not comment to The Guardian. Rights and Media Funding did not respond to efforts to have questions answered as well. So Everton continues to be what's going on. All right. The other thing that I wanted to get into, and I'll show you. I will link to the video in, and hopefully it's available across the board. But I don't know if you saw this or not. A fan in the Saudi Super Cup final whipped a player. Seriously, he whipped a player. Like like the thing that you try to get a horse to sadly go faster. Whipped him. Took out a whip, which apparently he got into the stadium with, and whipped a player. It's on tape, or at least it was. My guess is that the video might have been blocked or something, but because I'm trying to access it. I'm trying to access the story over at the Telegraph, and it's having problems loading for some reason. So I'll see if I can get to it in a different way. It says apparently the Telegraph site cannot be reached. But so here's okay. So it was a belt, Rich. Okay, but still, I mean, all right. So okay, so here it is. Clicking on the Telegraph. So listed by Luke Edwards. Here's how, and this is why I said it was a whip. Written by Luke Edwards. Attacked by a supporter with a whip in scenes in the aftermath of after the Saudi Super Cup final. Remember, we talked about CR38, Cristiano Ronaldo, and what he was trouble that he was getting into recently. Al Hilal beats Al Ittihad 4-1. End of the match, the striker for Al Ittihad pictured going back and forth with a supporter in the stands and appeared to throw water in their direction. The supporter responded twice by unleashing a whip that struck Abderrazak Hamdallah. Teammates and club staff rushed in to shepherd Hamdallah from the scene before security intervened. Hamdallah scored for Al Ittihad, but could not stop his side that has Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante from losing 4-1. So the video, it looks like it exists, and I looked at that and I'm like, wow. So, yikes. Crazy. So you get those kinds of things. And Four-Card said that they used to whip people for not going to pray at mosque and being out and about. And that was wild. But yeah, just absolute craziness from activity overseas, and really wild, really wild. We talked about semi-automated offsides yesterday and how that is going to be employed next year. Sheffield United is going to be deducted 2 points by the EFL over payments. So when they get relegated, they're going to start the season in the championship at -2. And the manager for Wolves, Gary O'Neill, has been charged by the FA after criticizing, quote, scandalous refereeing. So the word scandalous in quotes. My friends at Reuters. After the loss to West Ham, Wolves had a stoppage time equalizer from Max Kilman ruled out after a VAR check for offsides against Chirewa, who was in front of Lucas Fabianski. O'Neill described the call scandalous and horrendous. Wolves chairman urged the Premier League and referees body to uphold the integrity of the league. The FA has come out with a charge on O'Neill. O'Neill has until Monday to respond. Wolves visit Forest on Saturday. Vincent Kompany got a 2-match touchline ban with the second match suspended and a fine after being charged with misconduct over his protest last month in the 2-2 draw with Chelsea. Remember, he got a red for protesting against a penalty decision when Lawrence Assignon got a second yellow for a foul. He's going to serve the ban for the home match against Brighton. Second match suspended until the end of the calendar year. So Kompany also fined $10,000. Burnley once again next to last, 6 points from safety with 6 games to go. So you got all that going on. Bart Keeler coming on in a couple of minutes. Let me get to what to watch and where to watch it before we go. Apparently, the NYCFC's New York City's City Council has approved the plan for Dylan Butler Estates, and so now that is officially off and running. Congratulations to Dylan Butler and all those in Queens. Soccer on TV, obviously, it's a big day traditionally for the NWSL. It reminds me, we got to track down Jen Hildreth. Bien en Español, if you want to catch everything on Bien, TIC, for the fans, CDO, Nuestra Tele, Gold TV. One place you can do it at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps us out at the network, and you can watch practically everything under the sun. Ligue 1 at 3 o'clock. FS1 has Serie B at 2:30. Bien en Español with the simulcast of the Ligue 1 match. ESPN Deportes has La Liga, Athletic Club in Granada at 3, 2 to NA, the doubleheader in Liga MX, 8:55 and 10:55. The Plus has the championship, Plymouth Argyle and Leicester City at 3, Bundesliga 2:20, Bundesliga B at 12:30, La Liga at 3, and League 1, Charlotte Independence, Greenville Triumph in the Carolina Derby at 7:30. NWSL Plus has Utah and Orlando at 9:30. Golazo Network has One Knox and Union Omaha. That's going to be a big early season game at 6:30. Paramount Plus, Serie A 2:45, Scottish Premiership at 2:45. Prime has the NWSL with Houston and Washington at 8. VIX has Liga MX at 10:55 on the simulcast with Puebla and Cruz Azul. And then obviously Saturday, you can catch up with our buddy Kevin Egan and MLS 360. And all of that stuff there, because Atlanta United is on Sunday. Sunday. The lone match on Sunday. Once again, we'll get into all of the other action going in and around. We'll check juice boxes and all of that other stuff coming up in short order here as we head toward hour number 2 on a Friday. And so traditionally, now, and this is going to be the first question that I ask our next guest as he drops back in. I'm going to ask Bart, hey, yo, Bart, do you now become a Friday person because the real world is intervening to this point, or was this like a, hey, I'm free on a Friday, can I come and parachute in and catch up kind of a deal?
So definitely more of the latter.
Okay.
I'm still not entirely sure what the real world is going to have for me on Monday. But yeah, this week especially, we had multiple meetings on Mondays, and also I was tired after the weekend.
Oh man. Well, and that's what I wanted to get into with you here as a part of the discussion to start things off. Since you're getting the chance to circle back with us, I guess it's only appropriate that we run through this particular sequence one more time to get your thoughts on it, courtesy of our friends at BR Football.
Jade Rose, the 21-year-old from Harvard, scored against Brazil in Atlanta. Nair with a save! Nair thumps it home! And the stadium erupts! Steps to the spot. Nair with a save once more! The goalkeeper for the big moment!
Yeah. Alyssa Nair continues her badass patrol in 2024 here. And I mean, I've got to do this again. I'm seriously. Every time I hear that sequence, and every time it seems like we hear a sequence involving Alyssa Nair these days, it reminds you that you've got to turn the heat up in wherever you're hanging out. SheBelievesCup on the whole from 30,000 feet. U.S. was challenged in the semifinal, giving up a goal 32 seconds in. It didn't shake them because you had a whole 89 minutes and 28 seconds to try to come back with an equalizer and end up getting the Duke and going to Columbus, chasing after another cup title. Let's take it a match at a time. Let's go back to the semifinal in She Believes and what was noticed by you now that you've had the chance to kind of decompress a little bit and watch it. Yeah. But take that first matchup for me and what still sticks in your mind.
Well, I think the thing that stuck in my mind is something that I saw through both games, but really noticed it in the first game, was our real desire to press high up the field. Obviously, the goal that Jaden Shaw scores is because Sam Coffey, who's the deepest lying defensive midfielder, comes up high up the field, presses a Japan attacker and dispossesses her. And that starts a very quick attacking sequence. And that's important. That's something that we have wanted from this team from the longest time, because this team is going to, even against Japan, be a team that dominates possession because these players are very good. And most of the teams they're going to play outside of Spain are going to they're going to struggle to keep possession against the U.S. And so if you can create those short field situations where you can let your attackers, who are very fast, very quick, get into a little bit of open space and get into quick decision-making moments, you're going to find success. And a little bit even we saw that with the penalty kick where Sophia Smith is running at a defender, and that's going to be, most defenders' worst nightmare, and ends up creating a penalty situation. And those things for me stuck out because we're still in the interim era, right? We do not have, no offense to Twyla, but she's not a real head coach. She just isn't. That's not
still a substitute teacher getting notes.
Yeah. And so to that end, all she can do is pass along notes to Emma Hayes and say, this player was good, this player was bad, and execute whatever lesson plan she was given for the day, whether it's just a worksheet or she's actually helping them, learn a new algebraic equation. I don't know exactly what Emma has been telling her, or what she's trying to get her to do. I don't know if Emma even wants that, because she probably doesn't want another voice explaining things to this group of players. But I'm sure she's trying to tell them general concepts that she wanted to change. And I do think we're seeing that a little bit. And I do think that this team that we're seeing, and the game in Atlanta especially, is against a team in Japan who is very talented, very technical, has the ability to counter press, has the ability to still create chances on the dribble, unlike Canada, who has zero offensive creativity. Japan actually did that, and I thought the U.S., outside of one real chance, which was, we can get into it because it happened again in the second game. Outside of that chance, I think the U.S. did a really good job defensively of controlling what Japan created. You're going to give up chances. Japan's the top 10 team in the world. They're good. You're going to give up chances to a team like that. You just don't want to give up quality or clear-cut chances. And I thought defensively they did a good job of limiting those.
All right, so carry that through to the final in Columbus, and you look at, once again, having to come from behind. It's back and forth. You're trying to navigate all those emotions that are attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the substitutions were the ones that seemed to spur the action and get you back in the match, try to get you over the top. And then eventually you end up going to PKs and getting the win there.
Yeah, well, and I think that was the key for me, was because I was very confused by the lineup to start the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I thought that the midfield against Japan was actually really effective. The Coffey, Horan, Shaw midfield, because they balance each other out so well. And I think as we move forward, I think Horan as the 8 makes a lot more sense than Horan as a double 8 or a 10. And that is just because, as we saw in the goal that equalized, or the goal that was the go-ahead goal at 2-1, she is so good at finding a pass. She's so good at also progressing the ball in the dribble. And if we can utilize those strengths of her, she's not very quick. So you do have to put a defensive midfielder next to her who can do kind of that work. But once she gets the ball at her feet, she can truly be a deep lying playmaker. And then you add Sam Coffey to it, who does add a little bit of possession as well. So I think Sonnet playing most of the game, I'm not sure if that needs to be done anymore. No offense to Emily Sonnet. We love her. Thanks for representing Atlanta for so long. But I think that we learned as the starting lineup was super ineffective. And then you saw what a lot of the subs can and should be doing on a broader basis.
Naomi Girma got dinged up. They said it was an early thigh injury, and that kind of had to reorchestrate things when you were trying to plot your starting 11s and such. When it came to She Believes on the whole, since the tournament's passed, and when our friends at Soccer America give Alyssa Nair a 6 for her activity between the 6, I'm just going to be like, I'm going to go to the Bart Keeler system here. Who I guess we'll go to the GBU, our old buddy Chuck Dowdle, when he would do the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he would look at a great play, a not so great play, and then one that was really out there that really was awful. So the good old GBU for the She Believes Cup. I don't know how much B and U you have, but if there are GBUs from She Believes, where would you give them?
Well, it's fair to blame Alyssa Nair for the goal that Canada scored to open the scoring in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say that Alyssa did not read that correctly and did not respond to the ball over the top correctly. Now, I do want to go back to what we saw in the first game, and what we've seen a lot is Tiana Davidson is not very fast, and having the fullback pushed super high on her side, because at this point Crystal Dunn was pushed really high to pressure. Who was it who got that ball? Oh, Ashley Lawrence, WVU grad. So Dunn had pushed really high to pressure Lawrence to cut off the pass into her feet, because you'll take a risk of a ball over top. And unfortunately, between Nair not reading it correctly and Davidson not being quick enough to catch up, I think those things led to a disastrous recipe for the U.S. And that does need to be fixed. I think the problem is that Tierna Davison is probably one of your better options as a center back. And even if Naomi Girma is on the field, she's not coming to cover that because you still have, as you know, she scored Adriana Leon and other, attackers that you still have to account for. So I think that is a problem that Emma Hayes is going to have to figure out of how do I balance my back line a little better, because leaving Davidson exposed is what happened with the Japan goal when Niswanger was up high. And Nair got caught a little bit there because she does have a tendency to not want to get beat at her near post, so she will cover that more than she will her backside post. But yeah, I mean, look, this was a mistake and it happens. Canada is really good at making a game ugly. That's the only way that they get results. I'm still baffled by the fact that they have a gold medal, because of all the teams that I would have expected to win a gold medal, Canada is not one of them. And ever since then, Bev Priestman has been playing, murder terrorist ball akin to something that, I think she would fit in well in the Red Bull system or the Union system. Maybe she and Jim Curtin are besties. I'm not quite sure what notes they're sharing, but they don't make games pretty.
Yeah. Well, but John Herdman and Bev Priestman, I think they attended the same.
Well, right, and that's how Canada plays soccer. The Canucks do not do pretty.
Wow.
And that's. Yeah, sorry, Rich. It's Philly weekend. I'm sorry, or, I'm not gonna Sorry, y'all are getting shots. That's why my tickets are being sold to anyone from Philadelphia at a $10 fee, because we got to check your ID.
Oh boy. Oh.
By the way, not to dig into this, but 50,900, a new record.
Yeah, 59:44. Yeah, that is true. Absolutely true.
But I guess, we got to check their IDs, because who knows if they're actually Atlantans. We can't credit.
Wow. Dell with a question for you.
Do you see how stupid that sounds, by the way, Jim? Anyway.
Dell with a question. What changes will we see with the team when Emma comes in? Change of formation, question mark.
The formation thing is a good question, because Emma doesn't have she does have a preferred formation, but she's not one that is she's not Greg Berhalter, where everything has to be a 4-3-3. She does play with her formation. I just don't know. Obviously, with the national team, you have to play to the pool that you have. And I'm not quite sure that Emma, who likes a 3 center back system, works for the U.S. women's national team. Because, as I said, you've got Naomi Girma, but do Dahlkemper and Davidson or Cook, or do any of those really fit with the 3-back system? I don't know. So I don't know what changed in formation. I mean, a 4-3-3 is a pretty standard formation in soccer nowadays. And there's a lot of
and this is a point that we make here on the show a lot. Formations are restrictive, and literally the formation is something for us in television to throw up in the pregame element, where it's like, okay, they're going to line up like this to start. But honestly, if you're going to pay attention to it, the second the ball is kicked, formations mean ish.
Well, and you saw a little bit with that with at a lot of times during the Canada game, Emily Fox was kind of staying back a little bit more as a third center back in possession, because that is a good way to build possession out of the back, as you have 3 center backs. It just depends. And I think that's something that we just don't know. I think the general thing that I will say is that Emma will play, and I know this word means a lot of things to certain people, but she will play a pragmatic style, meaning she is going to try to maximize the talents on the field. Some people hear pragmatic and they think, Big Sam Allardyce kick it long. Emma's going to want to have possession, but she's also not dumb. Yeah. She's a very smart coach. She understands that if you have Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, Mal Swanson, and even Alex Morgan up top, you need to use that capability to run at defenses. And that's not really a possession style game, so balls over top. And really, I think we saw it best in the second goal against Canada. And I think I'm hoping this is more that what we see with the Emma Hayes is it's not an anti-possession style. You saw that goal. That was not anti-possession. It was quick and direct, though. And those two things can exist. So I would expect it's going to be a more direct style of possession-oriented soccer.
question from Rich. Oh, by the way, what's the mug and what's in it this morning? Silly mug.
It's WVU Reed College of Media, which isn't going to exist any longer. It had like 7 years. When I went, it was a school of journalism. Then they went to the College of Media, and now they're being absorbed into the College of Creative Arts and Media, a new one that the university has had because as much as I like E. Gordon Gee as a person, he clearly doesn't know how to manage university finances.
Take a sip. Question from Rich.
Kickoff coffee in the cup, though.
Attaboy. And our friend Melissa Ortiz, who is the co-originator of it. Rich with a question: does Twyla stay on Emma Hayes' staff?
Yes, that's worked into the contract, 100%. Twyla will stay on. She'll just be an assistant. I think it'll probably be similar to how you see PJ Callahan, still part of Greg Berhalter's staff. A little bit different scenario, but yeah, I mean, she'll stay on. That is part of the contract, and that's fine. I mean, I think Twyla is a capable assistant. She clearly is a perceptive coach, but she's just not a head coach, and there are differences between being a head coach and an assistant. And she seems to be a pretty good assistant. She's very well qualified and certified, so that's good.
Dell, with the age-old question: will some older players be moved on and younger ones brought in?
Well, I think that question is a little bit loaded because if you're expecting a full turnover for the Olympics, unfortunately, I don't know if we'll get that. I do think you'll see some older players phased out. I am questioning what Crystal Dunn's role is at the Olympics because we don't use her in the midfield. So saying that she can play midfield when she's never played that really for the U.S. women's national team, certainly not in recent memory. Does that change with Emma? I don't know. But, when you have Neiswanger, who, by the way, also can play midfield, she did that at Florida State pretty well to the tune of a national championship. I don't know. But I do think you'll see some younger players being more featured. And I think this was something that was Vlatko brought in a lot of new players. You have to give him credit for that. I think the problem with Vlatko was he settled on a team a little too soon in the cycle and tried to grow that group for the World Cup. And we saw at the World Cup where he ended up leaving some players off that he, had the whole time, or didn't even play some players that he had been using the whole time. So I don't know how to answer the question because I don't know what Emma's. I mean, she starts in June. The Olympics are July 25th. So how much she gets 4 matches with this team. 2 of those I would assume are going to be pretty much, the 18 you're going to have for the Olympics and a couple youngsters. But in terms of young players, you'll see a lot of new ones coming up. And we have already seen Jaden Shaw, right? She's a youngster. She's 19. Mm-hmm. So she's coming in. Yep. Who does she phase out? Maybe Rose Lavelle if she's not healthy. I think DeMello and Sanchez have clearly been dropped in favor of Shaw. I don't know if they're old players, but, where does Alex Morgan fit in? Because, we didn't see much of her this camp, but Katarina Macario is back and she's scoring a crap ton for Chelsea, who, by the way, are playing Barcelona in the Women's Champions League semifinals. You can watch that for free in one of the DAZN apps or whatever.
There you go. Excellent plug. Excellent plug. Nicely done.
That's next weekend, actually. So if you're looking for high quality soccer to watch next weekend, the Women's Champions League semifinals is actually worth watching. But that's the question, right, John? Because you have Soph, who can play across the front line. You have Macario. You have Morgan. Those 3 kind of all want to occupy that center forward position. Who gets left off for the Olympics? It could be, hey, Macario, are you able to go 90 minutes? Because clearly so far she's really not. But that's the question: is how does Alex Morgan keep her spot? Another one might be Emily Sonnet. She's versatile. She can play a lot of positions. I don't know if she's good at any of those positions, but she can play a lot of them. And on an 18-player roster, versatility means more than true ability, right? Yeah. If someone's a 10 out of 10 at one position, but someone's a 7 out of 10 at 3 positions.
Yeah, that's a 21 is what you're getting.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's blackjack.
Yes. Question from Rich about Twyla as Jarrett joins us now. Rich wants to know, as he's been kind of impressed with Kilgore, and he was wondering if NWSL or USLS teams would come calling.
I'm glad you're impressed with Twyla Kilgore.
Beat 2, 3, 4.
Her contract is to stay with you. Like the contractually, and the agreement is that Twyla will stay on. Like that was announced when Emma was announced back in November.
Yeah.
That she'll stay on. Now she obviously could choose to not to. I think we're a little past. April 12th. We're a little past NWSL hiring season unless someone gets fired, which I think we're too early for that. And you bring up a point about USL, but I gotta think that she's making a pretty decent salary with U.S. Soccer right now.
Yep. Dell is then asking, Rich reminds us, and they play Manchester United in the FA Cup semis this week.
They do. Good shout, Rich. They do.
Dell, who is a player that is not really on our radars that we should be looking out for?
Here's the thing. I don't know if they're on your radar or not, but she came into this camp. She's 16. Her name is Lily Johannes. She didn't play, and I think part of that is because she's 16, and she is she's starting for Ajax, and she's had played Champions League football for Ajax this year, and she's doing quite well. But she is 16. I don't know if she wants to commit to the U.S. or Netherlands, or I think she's also got Ethiopian and Eritrean descent from her dad's side. Wow. She's got a lot of potential. So does she want to make that decision yet? I don't know. Is she ready for the Olympics at an 18-person roster? Again, I'm not sure. But she's the radar that I think you need to be, the person you need to start watching if you can. I know the Dutch Women's League isn't on any real streaming service, but when they'll be in the Women's Champions League next year as well, so you can watch them. And then in terms of NWSL right now, I don't think I have a youngster that has popped off yet this season. That said, there are two center backs, Sarah Gordon and Sam Staub, who I'm shocked they haven't been getting looks before. And this is not a hot take or an original take by me. This is what all of U.S. women's national team Twitter and NWSL Twitter has been stumped by for years. We're wondering when they're going to get a shot, and wondering if Emma Hayes, in her attempt to expand the pool, brings them in, because we do need some backup center backs. Alana Cook is hurt. I'm not sure if Dahlkemper and Davidson are really as good as they were before their injuries. And I don't think Becky Sauerbrun's playing for the women's national team again. So there's another older player who might be being phased out, but I think we already knew that. So, who knows? I just don't think anyone young has flown off the page from NWSL right now. If you really want one, it's Giselle Thompson, Alyssa Thompson's sister. She's a defender, a fullback, who might be fun to watch as she progresses. We're not quite sure what to make of her yet, but she's definitely one of those she could be fun.
Jarrett with Bart Keeler discussing anything U.S.-ish, because, his show is SoccerForUS POD.
I don't even know what you guys have discussed. I just kind of rolled in to hear Twyla Kilgore talk and women's national team. And I just is Alyssa Nair the largest mental terrorist in this hemisphere? Let's start there.
I think that's a great question though, Jarrett, because as a goalkeeper, I gotta be honest, half the battle in a penalty kick shootout is mental, right? Maybe 90%. There is a woman who writes for, I want to say she writes for the BBC or someone. She's in England, and so they're salty about Alyssa Nair saving penalties because they're mad that they couldn't score a penalty on her in 2019. But she was making the point that
short in general.
Well,
Bart didn't
Alex Morgan celebration.
Bart didn't he didn't lift up his pinky, but we knew where he was going.
I think so. She made this point that Alyssa Nair, the kicks that she saved weren't good kicks, and I'm like, you still have to save them.
Yeah.
how many bad penalty kicks have we seen go in the back of the net? Well, that means they're good penalty kicks. They went in. And how many times have you seen a goalkeeper guess the right way and still not make the save? So Alyssa basically guessed, I think she guessed it the right way all but like one time in that penalty kick shootout against Canada. 2 of them she didn't save because they were good penalty kicks. And that's like the dumbest answer. If you are under the age of 12 out there, 15, penalty kick taking as a kicker, you have one job. Keep it either low or high and put it into the corner. That's it. You do that with a little bit of pace, goalkeepers aren't saving. 9 times out of 10, they're not saving. Right?
That's what Jesse Fleming did.
Exactly.
To your point,
yeah.
Nair guessed right on Fleming. Fleming just knocked the living hell out of it and put it in the corner. It was a beautiful penalty.
And if you do that, goalkeeper, I mean, even Alyssa Nair's penalty kick, it wasn't the best because of the placement, right? But she hit it hard. Sheridan can't keep that out at that, I mean, especially nowadays, Jarrett, I'm sure when you were playing, you could take about 17 steps off the line before a kick was taken and they would allow it. I mean, you look at the 99 World Cup shootout, Brianna Scurry is damn near at the 6.
Yes.
On some of those saves.
True.
But nowadays with one part of 1 foot on or above the line, and VAR to confirm that, it is a little harder. But yeah, I mean, 90% of that is mental.
Well, and the idea of when you are wandering up and you are taking a penalty and you have a look on your face, and I will mention the Canadian shooters. You had some looks on some faces for the shooters for Canada in that round of PKs. They wanted nothing to do with it. And I mean, even
lost to this woman a month before. So
even if you don't want anything to do with it, don't go droopy dog walking up to the penalty spot and give the impression of, oh crap, I actually have to do something here. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What am I going to do? Because then you've already lost.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Listen, I think as coaches do need, this is a job of a soccer coach at youth development, is teaching kids how to take a penalty kick and how it is, again, I think it's, what baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical.
Correct.
That's penalty kick taking,
Thanks, Yogi.
I'll be honest, like at the tournament I played back in January, I saved a couple penalty kicks, but I also got to take one because we got to that point and I'm a goalkeeper. I haven't, when I kick a ball, I'm blasting it, 60 yards down the field. That's my job. Or it's going, 5 yards to the player next to me. You just go up there and say, hey, I'm going to score this. You pick your spot and you go. Like, I think a lot of kids are trying to do a Joseph stutter step run up or a hop or all this stuff. Man, just go up there and hit the crap out of the ball toward the side netting. I mean, seriously, I hate to say that it's that simple, but it is, because goalkeepers are going to struggle to save something like that.
Yeah, we've watched Messi for how long? Like, Messi doesn't complicate it. He picks his spot.
Yeah.
He walks up there. His body he either counter betrays what he's going to do, or he stays completely neutral. And some goalkeeper loses their nerve because it's Messi, and he just picks a spot out and hits it. It's not complicated. He's not hitting it off the underside of the crossbar like Zidane. He's not chipping it. He just picks out a spot and goes.
Yep.
It's one of those things where as a young player, I would even say have two directions you go and just feel confident in both of them.
All right. Last thing before you go, Bart, the U20 draw has been set for World Cup qualifying. U.S. is in Group A with Costa Rica, Cuba, Jamaica. Group B is Honduras, the DR, El Salvador, and Canada. And they might numb everybody to sleep in Group B and come out of that one in one piece. Group C is Mexico, Panama, Guatemala, and Haiti. 12-team tournament takes place July 19 to August 4 in Irapuato and Celaya. Top 2 in each group. Top 2 best third-place finishers advance to the quarters. U.S. has won the previous 3 U20 CONCACAF championships, qualified for the last 5 U20 World Cups, reaching the quarters in each of the last 4 appearances. Should we obviously expect more of the same, or what are you hunting for here in the U20s?
Well, look, I think, Jarrett, the same way that I looked at this, the same way that I do, and the fact that when he's watching an Atlanta United youth team, you're looking for individual performers, not necessarily a team performance. You want the team to look like they're playing in a cohesive and structured manner, but you're looking at individuals. And so hopefully this is another chance to find those individuals who are the future of the national team. But also specifically to the U.S., look, you're at the stage now where qualification is the standard. And if you don't do that, that's a problem.
Yep.
You mentioned how many in a row. I mean, the reason we qualified for this year's Olympics is because CONCACAF made the Olympic qualification the U20 tournament. We hadn't qualified for the U23s since 2008 because we kept failing in the U23 tournament. At the U20s, though, we get it done. Well, yeah, Jason Christ is good. But
Jason Christ, superstar.
That's the expectation. You got to win and qualify. That's it. That's where we're at.
All right. What's the latest with the SoccerForUS POD when the real world is not intervening, and everything else is going on? And how can folks buy you a coffee, sir?
Yeah. So last week and this week, I took a break because I was busy organizing events for 200 some people. So apologies for not getting all that out, but we have a break now. We don't play. There is not a U.S. soccer game until June 1. So we'll have some content that is not game related.
There you go.
We're going to do a couple about just general kind of bigger questions that U.S. soccer has. We will have a kind of recap on the SheBelievesCup and like the interim era of Twyla, because it's worth talking about and kind of how things did deviate from Blatco but still stayed the same, and to Dell and Rich's questions of what's the future look like under Emma,
right?
Which I'll again say we don't know, because Emma is not a dogmatic coach. She's just not. We'll also have some stuff about I think we wanted to talk about, I got to remember what Caleb and Thomas wanted to talk about, because I feel like one was about Open Cup and maybe one was also about the MLS USL. I don't want to say rivalry, but you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the philosophical differences between the two groups.
Spoiler alert: we prefer symbiotic relationship rather than rivalry, because I think both are required to make soccer in this country good.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SoccerForUsPod, and make sure you follow at SoccerForUsPod on Twitter. And if anyone is looking for tickets to the game on Sunday, I have 2 up for sale.
There you go. All right.
They're inexpensive, unless you're a Philly fan.
There you go. Then you get the Philly surcharge. Thanks for hopping in and pushing the real world aside on a Friday and giving us the update here. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend, and have a good weekend. We'll catch up with you next week at some point when you let me know when the real world doesn't intervene.
It might be Monday. It might be Friday. We'll find out, John. You have a good call on Sunday or whatever it is that you do.
Yeah. My big 30-foot head inside Mercedes-Benz. That's going to be on Sunday.
I'm sure your wife is one of the few people who love seeing your head that big.
No, she sits there. She'll be sitting there. It's like, dude, your head is so big. that crown of yours, man. You got to chill on that.
I'm mad at her Auburn Tigers for busting my bracket, so she can.
She was kvetching about the fact that 3 Alabama sides went to Spokane, Washington for ish sakes. So, and who scheduled it? Who was on the committee? Greg Byrne, the AD for Alabama. So there you go. There's your black helicopters. We'll see you next week.
Check out Spokane and all the soccer they've got going up there. Great crest. So
yes, Velocity.
Right? That's what they were doing.
Yep, the Velocity doing some really good stuff in League One. Bye.
Bye.
There goes Bart. All right. So I hit 2 buttons. All right, Jarrett. So here we go. Final half hour. Let's get into Atlanta United and Philly and MLS and cliffhanger and all of the numbers. According to Doug this morning, no Gigi or Gregerson at training. Derek Williams, Jamal, and Shonde Silva also out. And so that's where we are right now. Once again, when Gonzalo Pineda has his post-practice presser, say that 10 times fast, we'll get a better update as to who else is in, who is out, And obviously we know about Jamal. We know about Derek Williams. We knew about Stian Gregerson. And we don't know where Gregerson is in his rehab. We don't know where Gigi is with the bone bruise, but we'll know more when Gonzalo speaks after practice. And Philadelphia comes to town with the 4-4-2 diamond, and I'm just going to let the Twitch pitch rock and roll between conversations with Rich and everybody else. So Rich will get in his shots, and everybody else will be working back and forth. But, Atlanta United, it will be an interesting-looking starting 11/18 going up against the Union on Sunday.
You're going to work. Well, no, you're going to work with what you got. And you're going to be careful with Gigi, if for no other reason. I think Gonzalo Pineda has pretty consistently always been very risk averse with his players. He wants them to be 100%. You should have Daniel Rios this week. Yep. So I imagine it'll be a Rios up top. Hopefully he can give you a really good run out. I believe when he scored 4 goals against the Union when he was in Carolina. So
the
believe big it was against the Union.
Yeah, it was. That was the one where
doesn't mean it's going to happen again. It's just a funny coincidence.
No, but
don't read into it.
But no, you're kind of hey, he's got this performance in him in the past on a turf surface. It was in Charlotte on the outdoors, so we'll see.
Yeah, you're gonna piece this together. You're gonna do what you can to make it work. And you are going to lean on the young guys again because you're going to be asking Noah Cobb to handle the pressure. And you've got 2 consecutive really good performances against the Union at home, going back the last 2 years.
Yep.
So you need to find a way to keep doing that.
Yeah, it's going to
be tough. Yeah, it's going to feel like it's stacked against you.
Yeah,
correct. All of that is accurate, but again, ain't nobody in the world going to feel sorry for you.
No.
And you're not going to feel sorry for someone else when they roll in here later this year, possibly missing everything but a child of God in a sewing machine. No one felt sorry for Seattle when they started the season like that. No one's going to feel sorry for, when Miami, if they have to roll in sans Messi and sans Luis Suarez and, I don't know, anyone else possible. Like no one feels sorry for you when it's stacked against you. So you have to go out there and make something happen yourself.
Yeah.
Not complicated.
No, by the way, Tata, after getting thumped in the Triple C, had his press conference, and I don't know, I mean, he might have been busy, but he didn't watch Crew take on Tigres, but he said, I mentioned this earlier. If MLS doesn't ease the various rules it has to have deeper rosters with injuries and suspensions, Liga MX will continue to have the advantage. Still, I've always thought, even while working in Mexico, now working in the U.S., that the comparison between the 2 leagues is useless. MLS still cannot compete with Liga MX at the same level because of roster rules. I think the process will be changing. We talked about it this week with alterations coming in the short term. But like I said, I guess, Tata might have been busy. But he was not. He did not watch Columbus and Tigres as a part of that example. So it is how you structure yourself under the current rules is what we're staring at. But you're probably looking at Luis Abram and Noah Cobb as your center backs. So it's going to be Brad, Caleb, Luis Abram, Noah Cobb, Efren Morales on line 1. We talked about it with Jason yesterday. You can listen to that conversation on the app. Brooks Lennon on the right.
I believe we have a really weird Twos game this week coming up too.
Yeah, Monday night.
Yeah.
Initially, it was
you're going to run Efra into the ground in the year 2024.
Well, maybe, but the thing, So initially, it was supposed to be that the Twos were going to play later in the day, so it was going to be a first team, second team doubleheader. But they slid the second team match to Monday to actually help out both Union 2 and Atlanta United 2 in this situation. Morning, Abby. And so right now, you don't know the first team playing first. So Efren Morales will be on line 1, and he'll be a part of that first team negotiation because your center backs, other than Abram and Noah Cobb, will be Ronald Hernandez and probably Efra. Those will be your 4 that you will have on Sunday afternoon. Midfield, some combination of, most of the time, midfield's going to be first choice. It's probably going to be Thiago and Bartosz Schließ, and it's going to be Tristan Muyumba. Up top, It'll be Saba on the right to start in the lineup for television because, once again, lineups are formations are a loose construct. On the left,
it is the Jalen Rose philosophy. Not to a T. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but if you've ever heard Jalen Rose talk about positions were invented to help people understand the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or the position numbers, like when we number off positions,
right?
Because everything can get real fluid, real damn fast.
Yeah, and so on the left, Tyler Wolf. Or is it Mosqueda?
You sure about that?
Or is it Mosqueda on the left? Saba on the left, Mosqueda on the right. So once again, with the flexibility that you have, you can go either way.
As someone who was very much on board with starting Tyler Wolf in that game on the road, I was fine with that.
Yeah.
Yes, Rich, they should do a doubleheader at the Benz.
So Effort just goes and changes his uniform after the match is over. I see.
Yeah, basically. They should do a doubleheader. Actually, it would be a lot of fun.
It would
be. I am not 100% sure that you do that because as much as I loved Tyler Wolf starting that game because I thought it was a good fit because of the size of that field and his technical ability and his pressing, Edwin Mosqueda has done everything you can ask of a guy to earn a start. And if Xande Silva ain't ready, or even if you feel like Xande just needs a mental break to come off the bench, I'm starting Edwin.
Okay.
And maybe Edwin is maybe he is a guy who benefits from coming into games and jumping into the stream like a psychotic salmon.
Yeah.
Maybe that's him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if he wants to, if we can get him doing what he does from the start, I'm trying to get him doing what he does from the start.
Give me 45, run like hell, and then we'll see what happens at the half.
Give me 60 if you can.
Okay.
I'm going to be selfish and say give me 60.
Okay. Doug said that Gigi just came out to do an individual workout with a trainer 4 minutes ago.
And because we had talked to a bunch of people had talked about this. And so I guess let's do it. Bone bruises are very weird.
Yes.
If you've ever had one, they're just not consistent.
No.
And they're an absolute pain in the ass to deal with. Because that one was like a knee-on-knee collision.
It was, and it was just below the knee for Gigi on the swing through. If you watch it, there was the one angle that was through the near post, and you see Gigi kind of obstructed a little bit, but he takes a swing, and it looks like just below his knee was the contact with the other player, and so it's high up on the leg, high up on the in the fib area, just under the knee. But man, that is not a fun place to have any kind of a bruise.
No, not at all. So I think you'll just you see how he feels week to week.
Yeah.
And you try and get him back, but you also, like I said, you're gonna be careful with him because they've always been careful with guys coming back from injuries. And the idea being, I would rather not have him for one more week than lose him for 2 more months because we just got too fast.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am at with it. I want him on the field desperately. I like that he was 5th in MLS's MVP race, which take that MVP race for what it was. Because I don't know if you saw, they had Luis Suarez as their number 1 guy in the MVP race. The guy behind him was a guy who had more goals and assists.
Of course.
That was a lot of fun. The absolute animosity that is going to be continuously created by this league itself against Miami, you can put that on a sandwich. It's just gonna be delicious.
Yeah. So Andre Blake had cleared concussion protocol once again from Jonathan Tannenwald of the Philadelphia Inquirer.
He's another one that just had between international duty and that, Andre's had a rough go of it this year.
Yeah. In multiple collisions during the match, March 30 against Minnesota, played through him, had to be subbed out in the 70th, cleared concussion protocols before last Saturday's match at Nashville. late in Friday's practice. Shot by Quinn Sullivan, hit him in the head. They kept him out as a precaution. Oliver Semla played instead, made 4 saves in the 2-1 win. But
Semla was fine.
Yeah, and so it looks like Blake will get the start, fairly first choice for the Union here as a part of this discussion. And like I said, could be a 4-3-3. You train for the 4-4-2 diamond. You train for the frustrations, the goading, the professional fouling, all of these different things that we're going to face when Philadelphia comes to town. And the biggest thing is that you have to keep control of yourself first and foremost, and not get drawn into what Philadelphia wants you to do.
Yeah, and this is more of a Rich question, to be honest. About do you just go to the 4-4-2 because that's been your thing? Like, you've tinkered with different things to various results of success and failure. Like, look, the first 45 minutes of that game in Nashville were horrendous.
You can't get your life back.
Not to, and it's not to say, this isn't a comment to say, Philadelphia was bad, they sucked, or they're terrible or anything. This was like, neither one of them could connect a pass to save their lives or their families' lives.
Yeah.
And then in that game, you switch to that 4-4-2 diamond.
Right.
And look, I think you can get into, like, how much of it is Philadelphia, how much of it is Nashville just being very underwhelming.
Right.
I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Like, yeah, Nashville's got problems. We've discussed them ad nauseum. But I will also maintain still that, like, Philadelphia, for the lack of, like, ruthless moments they've gotten from those guys who are, your big money guys, who your designated players, for the lack of big moments they've gotten from them, the cohesion they have to ride out games when they're not at their best is great. And it's what Atlanta's, I think, been trying to work towards. And it's an important skill to have. When you can win a game when you're not at your best, that's an important one to have, and it's what makes Philadelphia such a pain in the ass to play against.
Yep.
Let's see. Rich said 4-4-2 is now an emergency formation. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I mean, you started a 4-3-3 and then you rolled over to it last time. The other elements of this, once again, who's it? Emilio with a question asking about Wiley and Silva. Is it a problem as stated on social media, or is it just a slump? Played well together last year. I think it's, and to your point, Emilio, I think it's the latter, because I think Xande Silva, A, he's got to stay healthy. And then B, he's a rhythm guy.
He's got to find his rhythm, because he hasn't found it yet this year.
Right. And so
Xande has not been great this year.
Yeah. When you have a guy, think of it like
spade a spade.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he sucks. Doesn't mean he's terrible. Doesn't mean it's the worst thing in the world. Xande just has not had it so far this year.
I mean, think about it like a rhythm shooter in basketball. And if that rhythm shooter, comes off the bench and he starts, he hits a couple of jumpers out of the blocks, you're going to keep feeding him. And with Caleb and Xande this year, Xande hasn't hit those first couple of shots. And so you're kind of stuck in the idea of, okay, we need to keep feeding him to try to get him out of the slump. And at the same time, we've got to try to continue to do what we do offensively around the idea of lifting Xande up and having Caleb on the left-hand side to do it. So.
And so one of the things that gets talked about a lot when you talk to Gonzalo Pineda is one of the things you can remember about the way Atlanta gets forward is he doesn't want both fullbacks getting forward at the same time. Now, this doesn't mean that they're both not going to be up the field like in the Chicago game. Someone asked about both of them were further up the field. That's because Chicago set deep. And Atlanta was able to kind of set the line of confrontation further up the field. Yeah. Now, that's different than both guys, charging into the unknown. So what you end up getting, I think, in all of that is you start working on those combinations and those little societies that you build on the field. And for Atlanta's sake, on the right-hand side, I think it's very safe to say that as of right now, Saba Lobshanica and Brooks Lennon have been carving a path through everyone's territory. in a very hilarious way.
Mm-hmm.
They've been terrifying to watch. They've been very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And you lean on that.
Yeah.
Now that means, but when you're working those combinations, that means that if things work right, Caleb Wiley's sitting back. He's tucking in, but he's going to sit deeper on the defensive side. When he goes, Brooks Lennon is going to stay back. You don't want to get both of them forward because then you get into really reckless suicidal play,
Right.
and then you end up getting outnumbered on counters. So you want one of them to stay. Well, if Brooks is going to go with Saba, which by all means, at the start of this season, please do just that thing.
Yep.
That means that Caleb's going to sit deeper. You're getting fewer chances, and they haven't connected yet. Now, whether that's just a chemistry issue, whether it's he and Shande figuring stuff out together, that I don't know, man. It's a good question. But for me, I'm not as worried about them right now, just because like right now you have been leaning on that hot hand on the right hand side. If you want to get weird about it for this game, if you push Philadelphia into a diamond, and again I defer to Rich because Rich knows Philadelphia, in the Twitch pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like Rich and I will have our disagreements. Most of them about our truth, to be honest. Not even about Philly anymore. We just have disagreements about our truth.
Yes,
it's okay, Rich.
It's quite
Still
all
love
right.
you.
Yes,
our truth is just an absolute joy, even though I know he annoys you. But if you can get them in that diamond, one of the ways you attack a diamond is big switches.
Yep.
And you could be in a situation where Atlanta is able to hit big switches and really pull on that diamond and try and create mismatch opportunities and try and get overloads and see what you can create with it. But we're gonna see, man. But I guess this is a really long and convoluted, not very good answer to Emilio's question of I'm not as worried about it right now, just because you've been leaning so hard on the right-hand side because it's been so good.
Yeah.
You do need them at some point to find their chemistry, though.
Yeah, and that's why we suggested perhaps.
Rich is the only one who booed him winning at WrestleMania on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
I'm so proud of you.
Wow.
If not because you booed him, but because you have stuck to your convictions so thoroughly.
Yeah, that, and then he ends up getting the win with The Miz and John Cena in the 3-on-3 against Judgment Day on Monday Night Raw.
He got to do a 5-knuckle shuffle. He's probably that man's life is made now.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all he's ever wanted.
Yeah, so that's why at the front for Atlanta United going up against Philly, you're looking at some combination of Saba on the right. Who do you start on the left? Is it Edwin, knowing that Saba will switch and float? And then in the middle, is it Gigi? We don't know what he's capable of giving you minutes-wise. Daniel Rios, same thing. If you can start Gigi, and what's Gigi going to do? Tell you no. You're going to have...
You might have to chain Gigi to the bench.
Yeah, so especially in a match like this. So those are the questions for Atlanta United going up against the 4-4-3-3 or the 4-4-2 diamond with Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't want the ball. They don't like the ball. They want to create pressure, turnovers, fouls, and be clinical about it.
They want the ball. They just want the ball where they want it.
Yeah, I mean,
to be fair.
They don't want possession. Possession numbers have them as one of the lowest 5 in Major League Soccer, just over 42%.
They want the ball. They just happen to want it in your final third, which is a problem, which can become a problem if you're sloppy.
Yes.
But yeah, Atlanta's going to have to play through that pressure. And I know that's going to be a point of contention for some, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be annoyed by it.
Yes.
Nobody's going to be perfect, because we're going to see situations where it comes off and situations where it doesn't come off. If you're nervous about it, it's okay. Just know that they're going to do it.
All right, so we played Cliffhanger with Nico yesterday. We'll play it with you today. We'll go through all the juice boxes in as many divisions as we can here in the final 12 minutes, plus however many minutes the fourth holds up the sign. And we'll go from here starting now. Tomorrow afternoon at 4:45, so that means that it is the super, hyper, mega Fox pregame show. Portland hosting LAFC. LAFC is a big favorite on the road at a plus 125. No real surprise considering Portland can't hang on to a lead. 7:30. This is when our buddy Kevin Egan gets busy. Go, Jarrett.
I think Are you sure you're not thinking of Kansas City's ability to hold on to a lead? Because if there's a team in this league that I'm going to accuse of not hanging on to a league right now, it's the Fighting Peter Vermes.
Yes, and we'll get into them in just a sec. So CF Montreal, slight favorite at home against FC Cincinnati. Charlotte, big on the minus side, hosting Toronto FC. You see what they are without Lorenzo Insigne. In the composite, Toronto is a plus 450 on the road. DC plus 102, hosting the purple team at Audi Field. The Revs on the road, a big underdog, basically a plus 360, going up against NYC. I think this one's at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Good luck to the Revs and Caleb Porter. Red Bulls hosting Chicago Fire at a minus 169. The Fire are basically a plus 490. FC Dallas at 830, hosting Seattle as an underdog. Seattle in the composite a plus 147. It is Minnesota plus 112, hosting the Houston Dynamo. And yes, we've been talking about Emmanuel Reynoso the last couple of days. 8:30, the interesting one at Arrowhead. It is Sporting and Messi and Friends. Messi and Friends are a decided underdog at a plus 211 at Arrowhead, hosting with Sporting at a plus 121.
Please go look at. I don't care about this game as of right now.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a degenerate, and I am, we have to disclaimer this crap all the time.
Yes, Nico especially is, by the way. Yeah.
What?
Nico is a degenerate apparently.
Well, we already had the freak out yesterday. Man, what if Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was listening to old episodes of Soccer Over There and learning about gambling in the Thai League and the Mongolian League and Chicken NFC in Kenya?
Yeah. And BG Patham United, of course.
Dell, we are Legion, bud.
Mm-hmm.
The old Soccer Over There episodes are somewhere in the catacombs, covered in dust and protected by many wards and curses.
Yes, and what we do on holidays is we unleash them for listening on the app, and they become.
It's mostly just John, Nick, and I putting Jason's mental well-being into a very perilous state.
True.
That's most of what it entails.
Draw, by the way, at Arrowhead is a plus 250.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what this game looks like right now.
Yep.
Go if you're going to be a degenerate, and we have to qualify this with juice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a endorsement for gambling. I'm not going to do the ESPN thing where Chris Fowler basically implied that listening to ESPN gambling was free money, which Jesus Christ, Chris. Reese Davis. I'm sorry. It was like, Jesus Christ, man. Reese, don't just stop talking.
As a joke, that's not even funny. Yeah.
Go check these numbers at halftime.
Yeah.
Because if it's Kansas City with a lead at halftime,
oh boy. Oh,
please go check those numbers, because I promise you they're going to be amazing to see. Yes. And if they're not, if they're not, it's going to be because somebody decided at some point, well, there's no way they could blow that many leads at once, right?
Yep. To find out the number of goals Kansas City scored, add a half to it, and that'll be your over/under total that you would chase
for the second half. There's no way they could blow another lead. Yes, there absolutely is. This is damn near falconing level of ineptitude in the second half of games.
Yep. RSL hosting Crew, which will be an interesting one. I don't think that Crew went from their match in Monterrey back home to Columbus to go to Salt Lake City. I think they stayed in that half of the planet. RSL is a plus 102. Crew on the road a plus 244. Draws a plus 271.
At this point now, we've reached the point in the we have crossed the event horizon with CCC Cup, which is CCC Cup being the redundancy of the day. Yes. We've reached the point now where I don't care what the Crew does in the league anymore. You've made it this far in the Cup.
Yeah.
You can lose the next month's worth of games in the league for all I care. If it means that you go win the Cup, you just want to shoot out in Mexico.
Yeah.
You might be the chosen one to lead the Fremen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a non-zero chance that is the case. So please focus on that. I don't care if you I don't care if you lose to RSL in this game.
Nope. No, Wilfred Nancy is Paul Muad'Dib, I believe. We have come to that conclusion. Earthquakes.
John, have you seen Dune?
No, I have.
Okay.
I saw the original.
I needed to know.
The original, yes. Not
Okay.
not the new one or the Dune 2 that is being proposed. San Jose.
Well, Dune 2 is out.
Earthquakes a plus 127, hosting the Rapids at a plus 210. Vancouver at a plus 102 at BC Place, hosting LAG. Take the over, whatever it is.
Buddy. I regret too if Nico's not here to shake his head.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would disagree or not. I regret to inform you of you in Cascadia that of the teams in Cascadia, Vancouver might be the biggest capital problem of them, and they might be a Western Conference problem. It won't be perfect. Nothing in life is. Nothing in this godforsaken league is perfect. I don't think we'll ever get a team that has a season where they don't lose a game. The MLS is just too weird.
Yes.
But it certainly feels like Vancouver might be a very legitimate problem for everybody.
Yep. On Sunday, obviously, Atlanta United's a plus 108 favored against Philadelphia at a plus 217, draws a plus 283. All caps is on the minus side heavy, hosting Austin for your back end of the doubleheader at 445. St. Louis a minus 147. Austin on the road is a plus 380. That is the rundown of all of the activity in MLS. Tomorrow,
Roper, it's kind of like the American Dodgeball Association of America. That's the CCCC.
Absolutely,
the CCC Cup.
Yes, from the Department of Redundancy Department. USL Championship. Dell is at Indy 11 at the mic. They're a plus 108 on the road. The Battery are Rhode Island and Pittsburgh. Rhode Island is favored against Screaming Bob Lilly at a plus 134. And he's still, Lily's a plus 170.
Lily is still yelling at people.
He absolutely is still yelling at people, by the way.
There's a lot to unpack. USL is going to be weird this year, man.
It is.
I'm still fascinated that USL doesn't own a globe and put Memphis in the West, because the West is just going to be weird because of that. Like, Memphis has lost, I think, 2 straight. I thought they've looked good in both of them. They just can't. They've had trouble finishing. They're not this game. The one before, when they went on the road, I thought they were the better team, but they were not the better team for 10 minutes. It gave 2 goals in 10 minutes. It happens. But the fact that we're still making all these teams from the West fly to Memphis a couple times is just, it's going to produce some really weird games.
It is.
Good job, USL. You don't own a globe. Please put somebody else there. And just because Memphis is just because it's right near Arkansas does not mean that we have to put them in the West.
The fact that
I don't know.
Right there,
Tennessee is a very long state. It doesn't mean we have to do this.
Yes. League One's got some interesting ones this weekend. One Knox hosting Union Omaha tonight at 6:30. The Murder Owls favored on the road at Regal at a plus 143. Central Valley and Chattanooga. Chattanooga favored. That one's in Papillon, Nebraska. So Charlotte at Greenville. One Knox at Union Omaha at 6:30 at a plus 143. Murder Owls favored at home. Central Valley traveling to Chattanooga. Chattanooga still has home matches that have been pushed back. Chattanooga's a plus 123. They are favored. Lex is favored going up against Spokane at a plus 154.
Emilio, I don't know that people today can handle a globe.
No, they can't.
We have like 6 in our house because my wife has a degree in geography and loves maps and loves globes of all kinds. So we have like 6 in our house. I don't know if people know how maps work these days.
No, that's what the Google Voice lady's all about on your phone. Premier League, it is.
Dude, nobody knows how to get anywhere these days, and no one sure as hell remembers phone numbers.
Correct. You got a 6-match Saturday in the Premier League, and it's matchups that have bearing on both teams. It's not quite relegation 6-pointers across the board, but they are positionals. You've got Newcastle and Spurs as your early. Brentford, Sheffield United at the bottom of the table. Burnley and Brighton. Burnley needs a win bad. Manchester City, a big favorite. So Manchester City is one of the late games in the week in Champions League, and so you end up as one of the 10 o'clockers at home on Saturday morning. But you're a -1,000 going up against Luton. Luton needs points in a bad way. Forest and Wolves, Bournemouth and Manchester United. Sunday is the fun part. Liverpool and Crystal Palace. Liverpool, big favorite at home. West Ham hosting Fulham. Arsenal and Aston Villa. So it looks like Manchester City should take care of business. You got to keep an eye on Arsenal.
You almost slipped there.
I know I did. And some folks would have approved my slip because of how we are in the Premier League here. But, Liverpool hosting Palace, Arsenal hosting Villa, and Chelsea hosting Everton on Monday Night Football.
I'm very excited for Manchester City to create another financial situation where it gets a little dodgy, and somehow, and I'm very sorry for the Stropes, for somehow Everton to get another point deduction.
Yeah. We talked about that in the early part of the show. Dell, they are 4 points away. Dell has a Wrexham thought. Wrexham can gain promotion this weekend. I think they're 4 points away. They need a combination of 4 points in their matchups. So Wrexham gets promoted to League One, and the season 3 of Welcome to Wrexham ends with yet another promotion. And this is what we thought going into the whole thing.
It's going to make for great entertainment.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not being not this isn't like a shot at them. Like we're going to get great entertainment out of this.
Yeah. Right now, the way that things stand, the team that left Wimbledon and decided to create a thing on their own, the team that is not recognized by the city of Wimbledon or AFC Wimbledon, they can max out at 83 points. They are 4th right now on the table, and they're the only ones that have a shot. So they have to get that third automatic promotion spot. Wrexham now, 3 matches to go, and they can max out at 88 points. The team that is 4th that I don't recognize by name can be 83. So literally what you're looking at is Mansfield Town is a part of this too, but if you're looking specifically at Wrexham needs 4 points in their final 3 games, so a win and a draw, and then they get promoted to League One, and then the fun really starts when it comes to budgets and things and trying to stay afloat in League One.
Yeah, and this is where it's going to get dicey. Okay, to all of our old questions, kids can't read cursive. You know what though? My kid's going to have to learn how to read cursive because I still write in cursive, and I still write a lot. Like I still keep many notebooks around upon which I write. My daughter's going to have to learn how to read cursive if she wants to be able to read any note that I ever give her. Congratulations, kid. Good luck. Tom, I will bring the stepladder. It's okay. I will take that. Also, John Roper might actually slide tackle me one day, or in the middle of our game, playing on the same team, most likely.
Yeah.
For Evertonian comments, but I do feel very bad for Everton because they just cannot catch a break to save their lives, and it's not cool. Niall, the Manchester, let's call it the Manchester shitty thing. I still have a video on my phone. I'll try and find. I'll see if I can find it and drop in the Discord. I will. I still have a video of my phone of my daughter at 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 years old.
Yeah.
And she's learning how to talk more consistently. Where she refers to Orlando as Orlando Shitty.
There you go.
Because she couldn't say city. I also have a video.
Be good though.
I also have a video of we had the little MLS cup that they gave out one year at the store. Mm-hmm. And I have a video of her I handed her the cup, and she holds up this little MLS cup, looks inside of it, and says, "No Red Bulls in here."
That reminds me, I've got to go get my Gigi t-shirt at the team store. I forgot that it still exists there. Okay.
She's not nearly as petty and as aggressively heel as she was when she was 2 years old. And it's one of my failings as a parent.
Our friends out west who are watching and listening at work, wanting to know if it's the Angry Boomer podcast. I mean, we've kind of always been that way. But just depends on the amount of caffeine in our systems at any given time.
I don't have any, actually. I've had caffeine in like the last 3 days. So.
Well, yeah, that's a big thing. Let's see. So broadcast plans later today. I think it's 6 and 8 at City Park in Gainesville on our Mixler platform. It is Johnson, Gainesville, and Gainesville, the doubleheader. And it is going to be me and Maddie and Jason. And it will be really interesting how we do the broadcast because they don't have a press box. So we're going to see what happens. And like I said, it might be like Steve Stone and Harry Carey in the old days at WGN out in center field doing a broadcast. So, but I mean, it'll be fun. It's our last regular season broadcast of the year. Playoffs start next week. And when we know where we're going to be for the playoffs, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Guys, no one knows how to use a sextant anymore. What is the world coming to?
Yes, exactly. All right. So that's the platform for Friday for the matchups tonight. Johnson, Gainesville. Then it is Sunday on Star 94. Pregame show at 1:30, kickoff at 2:40. With kickoff, the kickoff is with Abe and Garrett, and the pregame show is with them, 2:40, with Mike and Jason on Star 94. Then postgame with everybody, the cast of thousands after the match is over for another hour. So basically, it's going to be the 4.5 to 5 hour extravaganza on Star 94 on Sunday with Atlanta United. Monday, it is the twos, Union 2, Atlanta United 2 on the network. Pregame show 15 minutes ahead. So I think it's a 7:30 start. So that would mean, so 7:15 starts the pregame show on our network for Atlanta United 2 and Philadelphia Union 2. Monday, I will be at Slowport at 7 for one of our first networking events while everybody else is at the Fraction, keeping an eye on what's going on with the twos. So if you're looking to go, no one knows how to use a Thomas Guide. That's exactly right. I don't even know how to use a Thomas Guide. So there you go. Abby, seriously, if you can grab my T-shirt, that'd be great. You would be fantastic. So Abby, you can get mine today. Give it to me Sunday. Call the store, and I'm allowing Abby to pick up my shirt. So good.
You can't just tell me that, though. You have to call the store.
Yeah,
so we're clear.
All right.
Because if you just tell me, I'm not at the store.
Okay.
I can't help you with that.
All right. So Abby, shoot me a DM and let me know when you're heading that way, and then I can tell them at the store that you're going to grab my T-shirt. Rich, I know it was great to see you last year when you came down, and we'll do it again soon, my friend, and we can talk WrestleMania and all these kinds of things. And by the way, Rich, for just so you know, the scarf that you gave me is right over there. It is here in the office. Right.
Rich, we're going to flip this around at some point. At some point, we'll get to Philadelphia, and we'll just come to a game with you.
I will. All right, I'll call and tell them, and Abby will go get my shirt. So there you go. So that's the weekend. Friday, Sunday, Saturday. There's U19s, but that's behind closed doors. Jarrett, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, nothing of consequence. We've got games all over the place. Enjoy them.
Yes.
Be nice to people. Please don't create a situation where I have to feel bad for someone who annoys me, a la the Neil Lennon thing. So from a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
That's an absolute banger.
And those are the kind of comments that we like to have to wrap up the show here on a Friday. Thanks to everybody who was a part of it this week, going all the way back to, let's see, our friends from Shea Butter with Southern Sylve. She was on, Melissa Ortiz. Thanks to her this week. Thanks to Tyler. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to our friends at USL Futsal and catching up with Rafa Arujo, Jason, Nico, Jarrett, Greg Garza, who was in a hotel room in Chicago. And we will rock and roll again next week. So once again, a great week here at SDH. For Jarrett, I'm John Muchaplatial. Play it safe. We'll see you in Gainesville tonight for Johnson, Gainesville, and Gainesville. And we'll see you Mercedes-Benz on Sunday. Jarrett, go ahead and send us home.
Muchaplatial.
What he said. We get to do this.